Good morning. Welcome to this informal virtual Babergh District Council planning meeting. The decision to hold an informal meeting has been taken as a result of the current risks relating to the COVID-19 pandemic. As this meeting is now an informal meeting, the committee members will not be able to make decisions, and therefore there will be no voting on any of the items on the agenda. Members are asked to discuss the items on the agenda and to confirm a steer to the Chief Planning Officer for each item. At the conclusion of each item, I will ask the Chief Planning Officer to indicate whether he is minded to accept this recommendation made in the officer report or to take any other action, having listened to the discussions. I will now ask the Government Officer to read out the domestic arrangements. Claire?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask a point of order.
Okay.
So at this point, why are we doing an informal meeting, and why could we have not met in the council chamber? There is no instructions from government that we have to work from home to do these meetings. In fact, I think the ruling is that we attend Endeavour House and take them in public. So why isn't this happening?
I think that's a matter you may have to take up with the Chief Executive. At the moment, that's the ruling he's made.
Right.
And so we're trying to get it to work, Peter. I'm at this stage. Let's try and keep the thing continuing.
No, I accept what you're saying, Mr. Chairman. I understand that you're restricted by what you have to accept and follow. I wish to have it recorded. I strongly object to an informal meeting when there doesn't seem to me to be any reason why that should be happening. And no one can explain it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Claire, would you like to continue?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Please ensure that microphones are turned off when not in use. Please do not interrupt other speakers. If you are attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. Please remember to use the chat function only to indicate that you wish to speak and not to post comments or questions. Please note that messages in the chat panel can be viewed by people watching the live broadcast. I'd like to remind everyone present that this informal meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of the meeting will be filmed, except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation to the meeting, you'll be deemed by the council to have consented to being filmed. By entering this meeting as a speaker, you are also consenting to being recorded by the council and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. The council, members of the public and the press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and press are not lawfully excluded. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Claire. Introductions today. We have Chief Planning Officer Phil Isbell. We have the Area Planning Manager, Mark Russell. We have the Case Officers, Alex Scott and Linda Bacon. And Claire Philpott, you've already met, is the Governance Officer. Can I move to the agenda, please? Thank you. I will now ask the Government Officer to carry out a roll call for the members present. Claire?
Thank you, Chair. Members, if you could just indicate your presence once I call your name. Councillor Sue Ayres.
Good morning, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Beer.
Present. Thank you.
Councillor Busby.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Hinton.
Here.
Councillor Jameson.
Here.
Councillor McCraw.
Present.
Councillor McLaren.
Present.
Councillor Parker.
Present.
Councillor Osborne.
Good morning, I'm present. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Owen.
Good morning.
And Councillor Plum.
Yes, I'm still here.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. To receive declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interest by members for information. Are there any to declare? No. To receive notification petitions in accordance with the council's petition scheme. We had anything, Claire?
None received. None received, Chair.
Have we had a request for site inspection?
No, Chair.
No, Chair. Okay. Right. Moving on to scheduled reports to be discussed. Land to the east of Hadley Road, Elmsett. I will invite Alex Scott to introduce the application. Please, Alex, over to you.
Well, thank you, Chairman. If I can just try and present my PowerPoint presentation. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that. Yes, so this item on the agenda is application reference DC 2103561, and that's land east of Hadley Road, Elmsett. And the application before us is an application for approval of reserved matters relating to 41 dwellings, and this follows outline planning permission reference B/17/01009, which was granted subject to conditions in June of 2018. Now, the current application is in relation to matters of scale and appearance of buildings only, as matters relating to access, layout and landscaping have already been considered and approved by way of the outline planning permission. And so moving to the presentation, now the first slide is an aerial view of Elmsett and the surrounding area, all the way down to Oldham. And the second slide is a closer aerial view of the site, outlined in red. This is a constraints map showing the planning constraints affecting the site, and in summary, key constraints to consider, I believe, the site is outside the built-up area boundary of the village, which is outlined in orange here. There are 2 public footpaths, one internal to the site, adjacent to the north boundary here, and one external to the site, running adjacent to the south of the site. The site comprises grade 3 moderate quality agricultural land. Now, the nearest listed building, highlighted in orange here at Yew Tree Cottage, is approximately 140 metres to the north of the site. And there is also a special landscape area here in excess of 300 metres to the east of the site. Now, the nearest flood zone, that's Environment Agency flood zones 2 or 3, is actually off the map, and it's a significant distance to the other side of Elmsett Park Wood and Spinney Hill, to the east of the site, if everybody is familiar with that. This is the site location plan submitted by the applicant, again outlining the site in red and the built-up area boundary in orange. And this is the proposed layout. Now, this is exactly the same as what was considered and approved at outline stage. As said at the top of my presentation, matters for discussion today relate only to the scale and appearance of buildings. Excuse me. Matters relating to layout, access and landscaping have already been considered and approved. Now, the layout includes 14 affordable dwellings, and I'll get onto the precise locations of those in a bit. 1 hectare of public open space is proposed, split into 4 areas, 1, 2, 3 and 4. There is also a centrally located locally equipped area for play, or LEAP, in this location. The net density of the site is 27.3 dwellings per hectare, and back-to-back distances across the site are no less than 18 metres as proposed. And just some close-ups of the various areas of the site for you there. Now onto the elevations of dwellings. These are some of the market dwellings here, and in total we have 5 two-bedroom bungalows, which are here, 2 two-bedroom semi-detached dwellings, 6 three-bedroom semi-detached dwellings, 6 three-bedroom terrace dwellings, and 8 four-bedroom detached dwellings, market dwelling-wise. And we have the garages and association provided there for scale as well. Now, turning to affordable dwellings, the locations of these are outlined in pink here, across the site, across the frontage of the site. And here are the elevations of the affordable dwellings proposed. Now we have 1 two-bedroom bungalow affordable proposed, 8 two-bedroom semi-detached dwellings, 3 three-bedroom terrace dwellings, and 2 three-bedroom semi-detached dwellings. Hopefully that's clear. So just running through that just to be clear: 1 two-bedroom bungalow, 8 two-bedroom semi-detached dwellings, 3 three-bedroom terrace dwellings, and 2 three-bedroom semi-detached dwellings. And this is a street scene provided by the applicant, and this is the principal street scene you would see fronting Hadley Road. Onto some photographs for you. This first photograph is the existing site frontage, fronting Hadley Road, showing the existing footbridge leading to the public right-of-way, which goes through the site adjacent to the north boundary, which is proposed to be replaced, and that has been secured by way of condition of the outline planning permission. This is a photograph internal of the site, looking southeast across the existing field from the footbridge, and then one from the public footpath, which is approximately here, looking back towards the existing dwellings fronting Hadley Road, and the rear of the nearest dwelling at Garage Road, which is the neighbouring estate to the north. This photograph was taken just across the junction of Sawyers, and looking back to the site, which is approximately this location, just showing the existing public footpath infrastructure there. This photograph is from the far southwest corner of the site, and we can get an idea of the existing street scene. And this is the public right-of-way mentioned before, which runs adjacent to the south boundary of the site, outside the site, but adjacent to it. And this final slide is a view back across the site from the southwest corner, across the field, and you'd be able to see the rear of existing dwellings fronting the Garage Road estate. So that concludes the presentation, Chairman, and if I may refer to the area planning manager, perhaps, for the recommendation, to explain the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Yes, Chair. The issue is that this is all we're looking at today is the scale and the design of the houses, because the layout and everything was already agreed at outline. One issue to make you aware of is that the applicant still needs to discharge the floods related conditions, which they haven't done. Hence the recommendation that that the Chief Planning Officer waits until those matters have been cleared before we issue the reserved matters permission.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Moving on. Any questions for the planning officer? I see a hand is up. Councillor Jameson.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things. Wonder if the planning officer could advise. Now, I understand there's lighting being installed on the development, and just wanted to clarify, is that necessary? I mean, there's no other or very little lighting in Elmsett, and street lighting would sort of make this give it more of an urban feel, I believe. And I wondered if there's any necessity for street lighting. That's one thing. And the other thing, which hopefully they can help with, the houses 5 and 6 Hadley Road have always parked outside their premises because they've got nowhere to park. Now, I've spoken to the agent about this, and he said they're minded to do what they can to help, but to bring it up at planning committee, I don't think they're here, are they? So I wonder if there's anything the planning officer can advise on in that area. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jameson. Yes, the first point with regards lighting, there is a condition on the outline planning permission. Prior to occupation, we would need a lighting design scheme. So that is required prior to occupation. I don't believe we have details of that as yet, but that would be forthcoming. And in terms of the parking, well, I mean, I would have to say that has already been considered and approved, as have off-site highways works as part of the outline, and secured by way of the Section 106. I don't know if the area planning manager has anything to add to that. Mark?
No, what you say is correct, Alex. We are literally, this application, we're literally looking at the scale and the design, Alex and Chair, just that.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. It's just that, as I say, the agent said they were happy to help the residents and just to bring it up at the planning committee, but obviously they've not turned up. So, and they would look to do what they can. I wondered if there's anything we can do to, in that respect, sort of speaking to the agent further. And with regard to the condition for lighting, that's to do with ecology, isn't it? I believe, rather than actual street lighting.
This is go on, Alex.
Sorry,
condition on the outline. Go on.
Yeah, condition of the outline, condition 25 of the outline, I believe. And so what that says is, prior to occupation, a lighting design scheme for biodiversity shall be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. Yeah, and yeah, it is geared towards biodiversity, but yeah, there are benefits in terms of other amenity, I would suggest, along with that as well.
Okay. Mr. Isbell, would you like to ask comment? I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so the question of 5 and 6 and the parking, Alex, could you get the layout plan up for us just to have sight of that? And I believe, as you were saying, this is not a reserved matter for layout, and parking associated with the properties is what you would expect to see on the outline scheme, but it does strike me that the opportunities, if they exist, might be something for officers to take away to see whether there's a non-material amendment that might be agreed to accommodate that. I think that's a question probably not for determining this application, but if members were keen that officers explore that with the applicant and see whether there is anything possible. We have the application before us today. It might not be possible to accommodate something, and certainly the question of ownership, title, occupation becomes a bit of an interesting question, but if there is something to be looked at, it might be possible to accommodate it as a non-material amendment, but probably not in relation to this application. So Alex, could you just identify where 5 and 6 Hadley Road actually are, so we've got clarity about that on this plan?
Still
5 and 6 are right opposite the entrance, basically.
Right. Okay. So in answer to your question, Councillor Jameson, I think my usual advice to committee in this circumstance would be decide the application you have before you, but it's within the realms of possibility to look to explore a non-material amendment for this sort of thing. The application layout isn't part of this application before you this morning, but I'm hearing what you say.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Matthew Blacko, I think he's the agent, and he was amenable to looking at some kind of amendment. It's just, as I say, unfortunately they're not here, so I can't bring that up with them. So, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Jameson. Councillor Beer, you had your hand up.
Thank you. I think you've got Councillor Hinton before me. He's got as number 2 on my list, but I'm quite happy to go. If that's...
You go next, and I'll get.
Thank you. Right. Yeah. A couple of points just to clarify. Good morning, Alex. Nice to see you. Can you just put up slide number 5, please? And can you just point out the Hadley Road is the road, I assume, that come off from the bypass towards Elmsett, and I know where that is actually, and also the area where the mill is and the airfield. If you can just give me those directions, I can then be sure I'm in the right place. And then I'll come to my second question.
Yes, I'll certainly try, Peter. So slide number 5.
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay, so this is slide number 5. So so Hadley Road is here.
I thought, yeah.
Yes.
So you come up there, and if you take a left somewhere up there, that takes you down towards the airfield and where the mill site was that we gave plan permission some years back. Is that correct?
Yes. If I can,
can you just show me where that road is? So,
okay, so that's up here, and then past the site, and then then we're onto the airfield up there. Yes.
Thank you. I've got the area quite clear now. The second question is regarding size, because I think this is one of the things we can sort of question today. Can I be assured that this second or third bedroom is large enough to be a bedroom, and that the garages are as large as we can possibly get them to take the cars of the future in? Because it's no good building these and calling them 2 and 3 bedroom places when the room is so small. We have managed to encourage developers to build them bigger, and really I just want your assurance that we've got as much as we can get and more if possible. Thank you.
Okay, I can assure you on the garages, these would be wide enough in accordance with Suffolk parking standards. Yes, highways officers are comfortable with the size of that.
I'm just sorry to interrupt you, but I'm well aware the officers of highways will accept the very latest standards, but if you can get more, that's better, because it's only that new size is the bare minimum to get a larger car in. But anyway, let's carry on.
Yes, sorry, and in terms of the bedrooms, yes, I'll just review the plans, if I may, and get back to you in a second, Peter, if that's okay. Because I just need to.
That's fine. I think, Mr. Chairman, through you, it's just reassuring the officers that when they're discussing with these people, to point out that there are councillors that will pick these points up. So we do want to try and get the largest rooms and garages that we can get. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beer. Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you, Alex, if you could put up slide 15, please.
All right. Slide 15.
Right. Whilst I'm looking at these, we're one of the few things that we can actually sort of comment on, because we can't decide anything today under these unusual rules, is the design of the properties that are going to be put in there. Now, those at the top, the other disadvantage of operating on this remote basis, of course, is that the pictures are so damn small you can't read any of the the bits and pieces that are on them. The ones at the top, the ones with the sort of windows set into the gables, into the roof, look like village properties. The ones below look like something that's been stuck onto the outside of a council estate on an urban area. Where are these particular properties actually located on the plan? Because it's difficult to see from the plans as well what properties are where.
Yes, I'll try and refer back to the layout if I may.
And whilst you're finding that, I would just comment on the street lighting, and that is that the MPPF did say that where there was no street lighting in the surrounding area, there was no necessity to have street lighting on new developments. So the county council couldn't effectively insist on having street lighting in rural areas, so that we could have some dark skies.
Okay. Well, as I said before, that is secured by way of condition, so we would need to consider that at the relevant time. Okay, so yeah, this gives an idea of the layout. So, a 2-bedroom properties in blue, 3-bedroom in yellow, and I think I've got a street scene which may be helpful. So yes, I mean those properties you referred to, Councillor Hinton, would be fronting the main street scene with bungalows, and the other dwellings would be set further back, if that's helpful.
But they wouldn't be fronting the Hadley Road, would they? They'd be backside onto the front to Hadley Road.
No, I believe that is the elevation you would see from Hadley Road.
I'm glad we can clear that up, because otherwise it's a bit confusing. The second question I had, which isn't covered by the reserve matters and everything else, but as everything seems to be a bit up in the air anyway, I'll bring it up. This site presumably is liable for SUDS. So where is the SUDS drainage system going, or is that part of the ongoing flood relief condition that's being talked about?
Yes, I mean we have 4 conditions on the outline referring to surface water drainage, and the wording of some is concurrently with reserve matters. I mean that's hence the recommendation from the area planner manager to get that agreed and approved before we issue reserve matters. Now, this layout that we're looking at today, this has already been considered and approved. I mean, informally, as I understand, the site has good drainage. It's not within a surface water zone, and there was no need for an attenuation basin when this was considered at outline stage. But yeah, beyond that, we don't have all the technical information, but that is secured by way of condition, and we will need that before we approve.
But where does the water drain to? You say it's a well-drained area, but it must be draining to somewhere. It doesn't just sort of vanish when it comes off the buildings. So are we exacerbating a problem a bit further downhill, for instance? Because that's often what happens, that a new estate is built, and before you know what, properties some distance away are suffering from flooding. Okay.
Well, the site existing, there are 2 significant drainage ditches, one to the Hadley Road frontage, one along the field boundary to the south, and yes, that's how the site is drained existing, and yeah, we would need to ensure flood risk is addressed by way of those conditions. That's all I can really say. I don't have any further details on it.
So who would be responsible for maintaining those drainage ditches? Because presumably up till now it's been done by the landowner.
Well, yes, I mean it would be the landowner, presumably. I don't know if the area manager can help with that question, please.
Yes, that's always one of the elements that the county floods team asked to be clarified before they would discharge a condition. So that you'll have the drawing showing how the thing would work. Is the flow rate realistic? Is it actually going to work as a system? And then there will be the next clause of the condition will be how is it going to be maintained? What's the ongoing stewardship of the drainage system? So that's a matter to be cleared by the discharge of the conditions, which we have in the decision notice from the outline permission on conditions. I think it's 18, 19, 20. That the ones at the end of the they're on the recommendation.
Fine, thank you. It's just that my own experience of working on the emergency planning team at county is that quite often they do not use joined up thinking on these things, and so it's important that we try to highlight where there is a possible weakness.
Yeah, it's quite correct, and actually county are, I'd say, more than thorough in their considerations of these matters, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Got just a two-part question really here for Alex, and nice to see you again, Alex. First of all, the housing, has the Suffolk Design Guide been considered on these properties? And the second part of the question, do these actually blend into the surrounding built housing areas, as we cannot see the pictures of that housing against the application? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Osborne. Yeah, in terms of the design, I'm unaware that the Suffolk Design Guide has been considered. That's not been made apparent in the application. Now, in terms of street scenes and what's going on around it, if I can just refer to some of my photographs, perhaps might be helpful. 20%. So yeah, this is existing street scene frontage with Hadley Road, and you might be able to see the rear of the dwellings at Garrard's Road as well. And then further at the bottom, we have further dwelling designs on Hadley Road. I think that's sort of all I've got in terms of photographs for existing character, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Osborne?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it does. In fact, it's just the question that from looking at the pictures that Alex has provided there, it does seem that the application does actually blend in with the dormer windows that have been put into the roof spaces of nearby properties. What I would say is that I think it's all said there that yeah, the one point I would make is that they do look a bit bland. So what the materials that they're using, will that sort of be a little bit more open than what you see in the pictures? That's the only other position I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor McGraw.
Thank you very much, Chair. I wonder if Alex could bring up the overall layout plan, one of the early slides, I think. Yes. My question relates to the affordable housing and its location. It does all rather seem to be concentrated in the what I assume is the northwest corner, assuming the alignment is north-south. So the overall plan, I think, shows the whole site. A bit further back. That's the boy. So as I understand it, the light blue and the light yellow are the affordable houses in this development. Is that correct?
They're actually shown in pink here.
Okay, I was looking at the overall plan. I was wondering, just to try, and I appreciate I could be getting this wrong. So could you indicate on that overall plan the distribution of the affordable housing? I mean, are we achieving the degree of pepper potting that we require by policy?
Well, I mean, I believe so. I mean, I think this is the appropriate plan, really.
Right, okay.
And it shows them at the frontage. But yes, we've got from north to south with market dwellings in between, I would say that would be
okay. So it is
potted.
sufficiently pepper potted. That's fine.
My opinion is yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that it's difficult to tell from, again, it's the size of these drawings. We can obviously see better in a chamber. Second thing would be then, because the line drawings are in colour, it's very difficult to distinguish whether the affordable housing and the market housing are, as it were, relatively indistinguishable because they're black and white. We can't see from materials, and sometimes you can see from a colour depiction. Any comment on that?
Any comments? I do not have colour drawings.
I appreciate that. I'm just saying that appearance is actually what people judge by, and it is a question of judgment. Of people looking from the outside, we don't want people to be able to distinguish to any great degree which houses are affordable and which houses are market.
Okay, if I may go back to the elevations of the various dwellings,
thank you.
Of comparison. Okay, so we have elevations of affordable, and here we have the various market dwellings. So I would suggest that the bungalows would be the same design as are the terraces, so indistinguishable.
And are similar,
you could say that.
Similar external materials being used.
Yes, indeed. Yes, mixture of brick and some would be rendered as well. Yes.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
No problem.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alex. And I'm not sure where this question should go, but I'd like it answered. At this stage in the planning process, has it been agreed who's going to manage the green spaces? Because since 2018, I think as a council and a planning authority, we've actually changed our direction in the management of green spaces. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I believe that would be a private management company. This has been agreed. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Jameson, I've got you up for a second time.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chair. Just a quick one, I think. I noticed there's a holding objection from Ecology. Is that still ongoing? And what is the issue there? And the other thing is, looking at the pictures of the houses, can't see any evidence of PV panels or parking charges. Is that not included on these developments?
No, indeed. That detail's not been included in the elevations or the layout. And having had a look at the existing conditions in the outline, I don't believe we have a condition securing sustainability measures. So I think that's the position we're in, Councillor Jameson.
Okay, and regarding the Ecology holding objection, is that resolved or is that still ongoing?
Let me just get to that.
This would, Chair, this would be in relation to the discharge condition applications. I imagine condition 23, which is biodiversity. Perhaps if Alex could check that. So that's the thing that needs to be cleared up before we issue the permission as well. So if we get to that point, Alex, and it hasn't been sorted out, that will have to be added to Phil's considerations after this meeting. Were there any other outstanding points there, Chair? I think that was the only one, wasn't it?
I think it was the only one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sorry. You're asking about sustainability issues, etc. If we're getting that you'd like us to put in some EV charging, etc., we can do this if that's the sort of thing you're looking for, Chair.
I think so. I think that's a.
Mr. Chairman, if I can come in there, I want to follow on from what Councillor Jamieson said, that we're not too late to require some, or at least ask for some electric charging points and perhaps anything else in that line. If we can we go down that road, bearing in mind that it must be in the interest of the developer as well to put them in at this stage. He's more likely to be able to sell them better with this sort of facility present. So can I support Councillor Jameson and say that we should ask what we can get in electric charge and vehicle points put in. Thank you.
I think that would be reasonable. One couldn't really argue that's changing the layout. Just having a couple of dots on a map showing there's an EV charging point here or there, or at dwellings preferably. So we can take away that and discuss afterwards, talking to the developer about including those things.
Yep, that would be fine, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parker, you haven't had a go yet.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I mean, as far as the actual application is concerned, I think it's all fairly sound, actually, and I think my colleagues have covered off most of the issues. But whilst we're talking about items that might be asked for, at the risk of being bored to my members, but I hope you'll all support me, 41 units, substantial increase in numbers in the village. I wonder if we could also ask for a defibrillator. It's a shame the applicant isn't here, but can we add that to the list of requirements? Obviously not a condition, not dependent upon you know, supporting the application or not, but a nice to have. Thank you.
Here, Councillor Parker. I fully agree with you.
Thank you.
We can do that. Yeah, we can do that. Yes, we can ask for that as well in discussions afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman.
Well, hang on. I've got the Chief Planning Officer wants to pass a comment, so I'll ask him first. Then I'll come to you, Councillor Hinton. Mr. Isbell.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, just one point. I'm conscious that we obviously haven't heard from the Parish Council Chairman too, so the discussion has ranged quite widely, and I think that is an important point that we perhaps might hear at some point. And obviously that may well help us pick up some of the points that have been the subject of questions. But just thought I'd pick that point up, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hinton, you had a...
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick one on 2 points that have just been made. Firstly, defibrillators. As the local plan is going almost back to square one to be resubmitted for examination, etc., perhaps it's something we should put in there as a policy that all new developments or increase in housing above a certain level provide a facility for installation of a defibrillator. And moving on from there to electric charging points, etc., I think it's important that with new developments that we clarify whether or not they are required, and also encourage the installation of solar panels, because if we're not careful, we end up with an electricity supply system that is incapable of allowing all the people to plug in their cars at the same time without blowing a whole lot up. So it's important that we keep the balance of energy supply along with energy usage.
Thank you, Councillor Hinton. I'm not too sure whether that was a question or whether it's a statement, but we'll
well, as this is an informal meeting and often what we say can be ignored, then you can take it either way.
Yeah, but trying to keep a little bit forward, Councillor Hinton.
Chairman, if I can help on that, I mean the joint local plan status. I think the intention is that the inspector will come back on the policies, including the development management policies. So whether there's an opportunity to include something around defibrillators is something I can take away for discussion, but I suspect the policies having been examined, there's not a huge amount of opportunity to change the detailed policies of those, because that's what has already been through examination. And as regards the point about capacity, that's also something that I think would need some careful thought, perhaps, and certainly in terms of allocations will be something to pick up within the Part 2 document. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, to come back on that point, I think as far as the local plan is concerned, so many of the supporting documents have been changed several times without councillors having any input into what was in them, that it shouldn't be beyond the wit to be able to put in something about defibrillators.
If I can, accepting the informality of this meeting, I mean, Chairman, the point with the process from here with modifying the local plan, because what you will see is a minor modifications and a main modifications document, that will have to be the subject of consultation, and it would usually be expected to follow whatever advice comes back from the inspector, unless we've got very, very good reason. So if the inspector has signed off a series of policies to do with A, B and C, it would be unusual to revisit A, B and C at this point without going back through the flow of consultation, back through the flow of examination and onwards. And I suspect there's probably not much appetite for that, but I'll leave the point there, Chairman. There is certainly a lot of evidence base behind it, and I accept Councillor's interest in the matter.
Okay, thank you. I've got no more hands up that I can see, but that doesn't mean that. Is there anyone else with any more questions?
Chair, no, there's no other hands up at the moment.
Oh, good. We can move on. Yep. I will now ask the Parish Council representative, Mr. Alan Newman, to speak. I know you've had your hand up and you're very keen to address us. So perhaps if you think you can answer some of the questions to the officer, please do so.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, committee. Yes, I think I can. I don't want to waste my 3 minutes on answering.
Well, I'll extend you. Well, if you're answering the question, I'll give you another little bit more time to do that.
Okay, fine. Chair, we have 4 points that we want to make, and I do understand that is a submission of details, but we want to talk about no street lighting, existing residents parking causing problems, and I hope I'm able to help with that one. There's a very deep ditch along the frontage of the site, which we consider will be a maintenance issue, and there'll be a need for additional handrails and that sort of thing, because it's very, very close to the new footway that's going in. And there is no detail, and this is another important one, of the additional series of passing bays that were approved by condition 15 of the original one and required by that. I want to know what a series of passing bays are and where they'll be. You've not seen any detail of where these passing bays will be, so I don't know how you can approve them. Right, now if I can come back to some of the questions. We did, talking about a defibrillator. There is a defibrillator in the village. We have one on the village hall. Now, whether you want to ask for a second one on the side and who's going to maintain it, I don't know, but we do have a defibrillator. So if I could come back to the street lighting issue, please. We originally asked 5 years ago that there be no street lighting on Hadley Road or indeed on the site. If I could refer you to our neighbourhood plan. Oh, and by the way, the planning officer said the site was outside the built-up area boundary. Well, the neighbourhood plan has brought it into the built-up area boundary. So you need to be aware of that. The lighting issue in our neighbourhood plan, on page 13, section 310, we say about the description of Elmsett is that roads are not lit other than Hazelwood and Church View. No street lights is a decision supported by the majority of residents, and we therefore enjoy dark skies and clear view of the heavens, which is what we want to continue with. And if I might just take that a little bit further, you have a condition that you've got to look to, 25. That was, as you said, an environmental condition, really, not really on road lighting. But no lighting, I would suggest, is a scheme that you can approve. That will get you over your condition that you've got to fulfill. I'd be very happy to take any questions.
I think. Thank you, Alan. I think what we'll do first is just get the officers to comment on your answer to the questions early on, if you don't mind.
No, not a problem.
Alex or Mark, would you like to?
Yes, if I may, Chair. I mean, I do have to just remind members that it's a difficult thing to say, but much of what we're talking about has permission already, effectively. The layout has permission. We're looking today at scale and design. Those are the reserved matters. We have lapsed into some peripheral discussions, things like EV and defibrillator, which I think are reasonable. But some things that the gentleman has mentioned are parts of conditions which remain to be discharged. I think the passing bays was brought up. That's condition 15. That decision has been delegated to us already as officers, within the context of this isn't a decision we're making today. I'm just saying that the outline permission grants this authority permission to, in coordination with the highway authority, agree a series of laybys, but doesn't say how many passing bays, doesn't say how many. So we don't know that, and we need the highway authority to talk to us about what they want. And they have to be pleased by what's being given to them before they say it's okay and before the discharge condition. And if that's not satisfied, they can't.
They didn't know 5 years ago, and I don't think they'll know now.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Thank you.
In whichever way it's done, however many it is, that has to be satisfied before any of the dwellings are occupied. So that acts as a block to the developer not doing what they should do. And similarly with, sorry, you brought up another issue, I think, which I've completely forgotten about. I think it was about the SUDs. No, it wasn't. Sorry, Mr. Newman, you mentioned
the drainage.
Yeah, the drainage, exactly. Yeah. So that has to be, again, county has to be satisfied with what's being presented before we can discharge that condition. So it's a tricky one, because you're given a load of plans to look at, but actually all we can really consider today is what things look like, effectively how big they are, what the colours are, etc.
Yeah.
The lighting was the other issue. That is part of it. That is part of a condition again, which remains to be discharged. So we can have a talk about it, and then we as officers can, in discussion with the highway authority, let them know that some people are worried about there being too much light pollution, but that matter has already been effectively delegated to officers to discharge.
Thank you, Mark.
Philip's trying to come in, I think.
Phil.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think Mark's point is right. We have an outline permission. I mean, if you take the example of the lighting condition, it only has to be discharged at the point of occupation. That's the wording in the condition. Whether that's right or wrong, that's not for me to say. That's what the decision is that the developer can rely on. And so, I have no ability to ask for that now. I think what Mr. Newman describes in the way of a no lighting is a scheme. I agree with him. No lighting is a scheme. It's a choice. So I think that involves, establishing with the county where they are prepared to draw a line in relation to adoption of roads and footpaths and so on. So there are matters here, and I don't see the debate, Chairman, as being prescribed from looking at guidance around these other matters, because clearly, the decision is not going to be issued today. The drainage matter has to be taken to a conclusion, and that will be quite important. It's certainly of interest to the parish, but it's also of importance generally. So I think the guidance that you give here can include these other matters, and it would be perfectly reasonable for committee to talk about things that it thinks should be included in a decision notice on the reserved matters. But as Mark says, literally the consideration today is scale and appearance, and some of these other things are swept up, and however unsatisfactory it is the way of outline and reserve matters, that some things are swept into other places. So the passing bays, for instance, yes, it would be nice to have details of that at this point. I cannot require that, and if you said to me we'd like you to do something about that, I'd have to say, well, I can't actually do anything about it, because the outline says it has a specific timing which is reasonable. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
I do understand that, and I understand your point entirely.
Okay.
One of the, if I may just go ahead a little bit more on the residents' parking, and I know you'll say, well, that's not for consideration today.
Well, Alan, I think I'll rule you out that it's not really for the discussion for today, unfortunately. I think it's unfortunate we haven't got the agent here, but without the agent, I think we're going nowhere with that particular thing.
And again, I understand. My fear is that we're sleepwalking into a road hazard that could have been prevented.
Yeah, I accept your comment. Right, members' questions for the parish representative. I see no hands. Is that the case?
I've obviously satisfied all of them.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Newman.
Thank you.
Ask you to. Oh,
actually, in fairness, Chairman, could I ask, but take the liberty of asking the parish council chairman a question on this matter of parking? I mean, it doesn't appear to me, from what I read of the papers, to feature in the outline decision, and clearly that would have been the point at which it would have been ideal to crystallise that.
We did make
Councillor Jameson did mention that the applicant is willing to do something.
Yes.
If we were outside this meeting as a separate point to explore the possibility of a non-material amendment to the layout, which is the outline permission,
yes.
that's something presumably the parish council would be willing in principle to engage as a discussion and kind of knows the issue sufficient to be able to describe it. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely would.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Busby, you're a late comer, but can I have your question, please?
Better late than never. Alan, yeah, you've said you've got this site in your neighbourhood plan.
Yes.
Is there anything in your neighbourhood plan that is not, if like, complied with in this application?
I don't think so. We have mentioned. No, I don't think there is. Not in the neighbourhood plan. Other than the lighting, which, as I've said, we would like dark skies, and that is in the plan.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There are no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Newman. Can I ask you to close your microphone and camera, and while we move on with our next speaker? Thank you. I know this is an informal meeting, but Councillor Jameson, as ward member, do you wish to address the planning committee, or have you already?
Well, most of the points have been covered. In terms of the appearance, looking at the drawings we've got, I've got no real issues. It would have been nice to have had colour so we could actually see. But obviously we can't do anything about that, but that would have been nice to have had actual colour pictures. And it would have been nice, I know this was decided back 4 or 5 years ago, but to have had some kind of sustainability report and on the, it's become more important since this was agreed, and it would have been nice to have had that included perhaps in this application if we could have done. But no. It's not part of this application, so it can't be discussed. Yeah, looking at the houses, they look fine to me with the drawings we've got. But other than that, and other than what's already been mentioned, I've got no real comments at this stage.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Jameson. We are open to you to be questioned. I can't see anything. No, so we have no more public speakers. I will now invite a discussion. Councillor Parker, would you like to kick off?
Thank you, Chairman. It's just a point of interest, really, as much as anything. Have we got any information on what the sill liability is on this development? Because it occurs to me that with a neighbourhood plan, there's a substantial dividend here for the parish as well, which might go some way to offset some of the concerns. But just be interested if we know what that is, just purely out of interest.
Was one of the officers? Can you help?
I think I can probably speak for colleagues in saying no, we don't actually have a figure that we could give you in relation to the sill contribution, but you quite rightly have identified the key factors in relation to this, that the parish does have a made neighbourhood plan, which is as far as I can take that aspect.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Right. Mr. Russell, you wanted to comment, please.
Yes, thank you. The issue of the ecology was mentioned a little earlier. I've just been doing a little bit of research. So basically that condition hasn't been discharged yet, but it doesn't need to be discharged yet. That just needs to be discharged prior to commencement of development.
Okay.
we'll make sure that happens, but it need not affect today's debate discussion.
Thank you. Councillor McGraw.
Yes, McGraw. Sorry, Chair, it's just a comment, but I was wondering, it appears to me that although we're only providing a steer to the Chief Planning Officer on the matter to be discussed and determined, or to be determined by him later, I think it could be said quite reasonably that we've also provided a steer in how the remaining discharge of conditions from the outline section might have been covered. In other words, when officers are in discussion about the discharge of those conditions, I'd hope that the points raised today, all of which seemed very, very good to me, all the matters, dark skies, drainage, all the rest of it, I'd hope that that has given officers a clear enough, and Suffolk Highways, a clear enough steer about what it is that members are hoping to see. Would that be a reasonable reading of the situation?
I think we need to ask the Chief. Mark or Phil, which one of you?
Phil.
Okay. Yeah, I'm making notes as we go and trying to crystallise what I am hearing here. And my sense is that this is a useful steer across a range of things, not just the reserve matters, Chairman.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Busby.
Thank you, Chair. Just a kind of general question, really. Well, it's taken 5 years to get to the stage where we are, and it doesn't look like we're anywhere near completing this application. Is there a reason for the delay, and have we got an anticipated start date?
I suspect that's a decision for the agent who's not with us, but whether Mark has any inside information.
No, we don't. We don't know when. I think sometimes the reserve matters do come in quite late on, and it's better that they come in a bit earlier. But in this case, it is where it is. So we don't know what date they're wanting to start.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Parker.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just going to sort of head in here straight away, Chair, and say, because we are in uncharted territory here, it's all something new to us at the Planning Committee, but I would just like to say that if we were in a formal committee meeting at this point, I would probably be minded to make a proposal to support this application. We're not, but I would just say that given everything that's been discussed and all the points that have been covered by my colleagues, if you require a steer from me, it would be that I would support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Councillor Ayres.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I too would support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alistair.
Councillor McCraw confirms I would steer that way as well in approval.
Any more comments? No. Then I'll move back to the Chief Planning. Oh, Claire, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, just in terms of transparency, Councillor Owen has just declared that she's got a non-pecuniary interest in the item. So just so that everybody knows.
Is it this item or the next item?
I believe it was this item. I don't.
No, it was the Go Start one. It's the next one.
Right, okay, thank you. Thank you. I just want to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
Thank you. It's the next one. Made it clear. So where? Who's got his hand up? Sorry. No, no one. I'll go back to the Chief Planning Officer then and see whether he has enough to confirm the proposal.
Thank you, Chairman. Based on the discussion that I've heard, I think it seems to me that the recommendation to look into SUDS is appropriate. That there are a number of other matters that need to be looked into, including the potential to impose an EV charging condition on any decision. The question of lighting and passing bays, I think, are other matters to explore with the applicant, together with that question of a non-material amendment, and I will take those away with the intention of doing that, because I think that's important to give the parish and the developer a clear understanding over what's intended to come forward as the detail here, because obviously this is only scale and appearance. And I'm mindful that against that there are various policies in the neighbourhood plan which all seek to achieve that in terms of design and space standards. I think the question that the chairman of the parish council raised in relation to the ditch maintenance and other matters are probably matters of private relationship will be swept up into the matter of the sustainable drainage proposal under a condition, and the question of means of enclosure is already the subject of a condition elsewhere, but I've made a note of these issues and in essence, Chairman, I'm minded to accept the recommendation in the report to deal with these other issues as a follow-on to this meeting, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. If that's the case, then that brings this item to a conclusion.
Thanks for the guidance, Chairman.
Okay. Moving on. Do people want a quick break before the next item begins? Any consensus? Or shall we go straight on?
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alan.
Bye.
Carry on, Chair. Carry on.
Yeah, carry on.
Yes, Councillor Busby, you don't want a coffee?
No, he doesn't.
Thank you, Peter.
I've just ventriloquy. Now let's move on. Councillor Jemson, you confirm that you may have to go before this item finishes?
Well, it depends how long it takes. I need to go at 11 really, so I don't think this will last too long.
So we might realise that. Okay. So moving on, it's and this is the one where Councillor Owen has a non-pecuniary interest. Was it, Councillor Owen?
Sorry, yeah, non-pecuniary. I just help out there occasionally.
Okay, thank you. Fine, that's all registered. Can I ask? The next one is Unit 6, South Suffolk Business Centre. Can I ask the case officer Linda Bacon to introduce the application? Linda, all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, members. Hopefully you've got something on your screens before you now to view, in which case I'll continue. Okay, so I haven't heard from anybody, so I'm assuming that's still there, and we're set to go. So this is an application for the change of use of amenity land at the South Suffolk Business Centre, and it's to provide parking for a community transport operator. The application is submitted by an officer of the council on behalf of the operator of the site, and that's Go Start. The site is also owned by Babergh District Council, hence its consideration by members today. This is an aerial image. It shows the location of the site in its context, and to the south you've got Newton Road. To the west is Sudbury Cemetery. North of the site is the former Delphi factory. And immediately to the east of the site are some residential properties. The South Suffolk Business Centre is this building located here, and immediately to the south of that is the council depot. This identifies the site in red. It occupies a small corner of amenity land at the South Suffolk Business Centre, and until recently it was an overgrown and underused area of land. It's adjacent to the main car park for the business centre, which is here, and access to it is just to the north at this point, and the council depot adjoins to the south. Relevant constraints are that the site is in the built-up area boundary, it's within a designated general employment area, and is included in an archaeological area also. So the application seeks full planning permission to use the land as an extended parking area for a community transport service based in the business centre that sits adjacent. The submitted plan shown here does need correcting though. It's been incorrectly rotated to show that vehicles access from the south of the site at this point, whereas the intention is in fact for vehicles to enter from the west, from the main car park to the business centre. An amended plan has been requested and is still expected. Turning to some site photos, this is the existing access into the business centre from Alexandra Road. The parking area is shown adjacent. This is the business centre itself as it presents to Alexandra Road. This shows the site in use for parking by the community transport service. It's a gravelled surface that's been laid behind a sporadic hedging along the frontage. The palisade fencing to the rear is to remain, and beyond the site, these are residential dwellings. This is a view from within the existing parking area at the business centre. This is a closer view of the same. So beyond the palisade fencing at the rear, there's a further area of amenity land that separates residential properties on the left side from the council depot on the right side. This shows part of the business centre car park in the foreground, with the council depot beyond the fencing to the rear. This shows part of the site frontage onto Alexandra Road. The brick wall to the left side encloses the garden land to the adjacent dwelling, and this shows the brick wall as it turns the corner. So your officer's assessment is that this is a modest extension to an existing car park that's within a general employment area that will be used by a community transport service, and as no amenity issues to warrant refusal have been identified, it's recommended that once the submitted plan has been corrected by the applicant, the Chief Planning Officer grants planning permission subject to no new issues arising from the outstanding consultation with the local highway authority and subject to the conditions as shown. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Linda. Moving on, are there any questions for the officer? No? I see no one. Oh, Councillor Ayres, yes, go on.
Yes, I was just going to wonder, there's no lighting, but previously Go Start have lost some of their catalytic converters. So I wondered if there may need to be a bit of lighting, that was all.
Linda, would you comment whether that's part of the application or not?
Lighting isn't part of the application, and indeed one of the suggested conditions is that there would be no external lighting without our prior approval. So that would be subject to a condition if the applicants so wish to install it.
Thank you. Councillor Hinton?
Just a quick point, Mr. Chairman. Presumably then this is effectively a retrospective application because they're already using the area for that purpose.
Indeed, the works have commenced during the life of the application.
Thank you. No? Any more questions? No. Well,
there's no more hands up, Chair.
I can. That's the easy bit. I can see that when there's no hands up. It's when there's hundreds of them that I'm in trouble. Moving on, we have no applicant, no more public speakers, and the board member is Councillor Osborne, who you wish to say anything. This perhaps with the time to say it, Adrian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, just a brief outline of GoStart. GoStart have been searching for an appropriate site where they can safely store their vehicles for some time. As our Councillor Ayres has already alluded to, they've experienced damage to their vehicles. The site presents an ideal opportunity, and it's not a huge area, and will enable the GoStart to continue to provide a valuable service for our communities, particularly the elderly who are taken on several trips to the hospital over the times, and I believe it's a community asset that is really wanted. I mean, transport is of a premium, and GoStart have been for years obtaining grants to be able to continue with their community support transport. So I agree with the officer Linda for the area that she's covered, and I have no problem in supporting this. It's a very good community asset, and particularly in regards to the transport. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Are there any questions to Councillor Osborne? No. I will now open it up to a discussion. Has anyone any comments to make, other than to suggest that we recommend that the Chief Planning Officer confirm? Oh, sorry, yes. We hand over the Chief Planning Officer. Sorry.
Sorry, Chairman, I wasn't actually intending to step in at this point.
Well, there's nobody's opened the discussion. I think.
Okay.
Hang. Oh, I have one councillor has just decided to ask questions. So shall we take that first before you step in?
Please.
Councillor Hinn.
Yeah, just a quick one. As you say, it's open for the discussion now. I think this is a relatively minor sort of application, and if it wasn't for the fact that it had been submitted by an officer of the council, would probably have been done on delegated powers. So I think that it's something that there are no major problems with. I'm not sure it'll solve their problem in terms of catalytic converters, as Councillor Ayres has mentioned, but I can't see any problem with it.
It may encourage them to go electric, Councillor. Councillor McCraw.
There's every reason to support this. This isn't just in general comment and steer, and no reason not to. And I would have thought that was sort of fairly obvious for all members.
Thank you. There are no more questions. We'll move to the Chief Planning Officer.
Thank you, Chairman. On that basis, I'm minded to accept the recommendation detailed in the officer's report and to proceed with the decision under delegation as authorised, Chairman.
Thank you, Phil. Right, that's the case. On my notes here, I'm now told I must now formally close the meeting, but as it's an informal meeting, I just wonder what formally closing means. But
just a quick one, Mr. Chairman. You did briefly mention there is almost like a throwaway that they'd be all right if they went electric with their buses. You might have seen the item on breakfast television this morning where a firm of ex-Grand Prix mechanics, etc., have developed an electric double-decker bus up near Norwich somewhere, which has got extended range, but they didn't actually tell us what the range was. But obviously, as this bus service probably services quite a tight area, it's probably ideal for operating with electric buses.
Thank you, Councillor Hinton. I will now formally close the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. We've got through it. I'm not too sure